Okay, let's call up.
Your mic's all off anyways.
All right. And now I'm making the phone call to somebody that is very special to both of us, but more to you, Jimmy. His name is Joe Fitzgerald. He's the columnist emeritus for the Boston Herald. And
he's still a columnist.
I understand that. Well, that's why I give him a lot of props for that, though. Mm-hmm. And I just think I just saw Joe Joyce walk in, so we got a lot of new things happening here today. A lot of good things happening. Say hello to the Kellys and the Bravermans. Joe Joyce, right there.
Is the answer? Can you hear him?
I can't hear anything.
Nothing.
I hear nothing.
I don't hear anything in my earpiece.
It says 21 seconds, nothing. I don't even hear ringy dingy. Hello? Hey, is that Joe Fitzgerald?
I know that voice anywhere. Joseph.
That's me.
Are you hearing him
That's
okay?
me.
No, I don't hear him. I heard him in
All right, try the other earpiece. Yeah, we don't have headphones. We have earpieces. So, Joe, bear with us in about 10
Hello?
seconds. There we go. Now, can you hear him? Hi, Joe.
Well, I'm not talking.
Oh, yes, I hear you. No, you're talking now because I can hear you. Joseph, how are you?
That's good.
Can
That's
you?
good.
And you can hear us okay?
I can hear you guys great.
Terrific. How are you, Joe Fitzgerald? It's Jimmy Young talking.
Jimmy, when's the last time we sat together at a studio? Must have been 20 or more years ago.
God, you had to date that, but it was the 90s. However long that was ago, Joe, that's how long it was. But in fact, I remember my producer saying that when you were on that show, it was one of the best shows we ever had on New England Cable News. So I thank you again for that.
He's probably a new producer.
Well, first things first, this is the first time we've actually made a call from this show. And I couldn't have picked a better person to act. This man's known me from the beginning of my career until now. I say we're more than colleagues, much more than colleagues. I feel like he's a family member at times. Joseph, so many years in sports, so many years now in the real life world. Most people would want to know, which do you still enjoy the real life segment of your writing on a day-to-day basis?
Well, you know, my personal approach to writing has always been that before I can make the reader care, hopefully, I have to care. And I thought 5 years with the pro teams in Boston, you know, I would have been happy to keep doing that. But when this opportunity came, these are things I really care about. It's almost like when I covered sports, that's what I do. But when I'm covering stuff like now, it's who I am. There's a difference.
I like that. And Joe, you know, it's funny, Jimmy says real life. Sports isn't real life, although a lot of real life things happen in the world of sports. And I know that you've met and seen a lot of people. Is there one real neat story, perhaps a feature you've done, perhaps a column about, you always dig up some really neat stories that nobody else knows sometimes, that stands out to you, that you say, you know, if a young journalist, and by the way, there's a couple of young journalists here in the crowd that have worked with me over the last few years, that, you know, they'd be interested in hearing how you tell the story, because isn't that what a journalist is? You're a storyteller, and with a column, you have an opportunity to give your opinion about that story. Is there anyone that really stands out?
Yeah, that's exactly right. I sort of picture it, if you will. I talk with somebody, whether it's on tape recorder or notes, and I go back and I kind of ring that out over the keyboard, and then you start typing, hoping that the reader doesn't hear or see you. They hear or see the one you're writing about. That you almost become that person vicariously while you're writing it. Oh, yeah.
That's great.
That's a big part of the approach to writing. I remember one of my all-time favorite movies is Patton with George C. Scott. Oh, he was good. And the movie was just coming out, and he was a guest on Johnny Carson's show. And Carson had all these prepared questions, you know, and Scott's answer was, yeah, no, yeah, no. And Carson was getting very frustrated. And finally, Scott says, Johnny, hold it, just wait a minute. Let me explain something to you. For 6 months before we started shooting that movie, I listened to every speech of Patton's I could to hear his vocal inflection. I talked to as many members of his family and the Third Army as I could to know all about his history. Mm-hmm. And when the day came we started shooting that movie, I wasn't playing Patton. I was Patton.
Yep.
I love that.
And you know, it's funny, Daniel Day-Lewis, who assumed the role of Abraham Lincoln during the shooting of that movie, I think that is a testimony to how good these actors are, that they're able to actually consume themselves with the character that they're portraying. And it, you know,
Joe,
I find so much, Jimmy, that so much of the writing, no names, no papers, just the writing is kind of self-centered. You see the first person pronoun, I, me, my. I almost never have used that in all the years of writing. I want to be it's like the really good referee, say, in a hockey game, he disappears. You don't even know he's there because he does such a good job. Mm-hmm. Well, when you're writing about somebody, the more the writer disappears and the reader can really sense the subject. That's, at least from my way of thinking, that's what it's all about.
Great.
Joseph, you go further with books, though. When you're writing a book, because you wrote several, and the hardest thing about writing a book is, now that I've started writing one, and I know you probably have to proofread it for me anyway. When you're writing a book, Joe, what are the principles of good writing for a book? Because you've written one on Red Auerbach, you've written about Russell, you've written so many books about different people. What's the secret of writing books?
I'll tell you one thing, this will sound a little presumptuous, and I don't mean it this way, but when I was talking with kids in high schools and colleges about writing, I would say I never considered myself a sports writer. I thought of myself as a writer who covered sports. Big difference. Mm-hmm. And I've shared that with colleagues. You know, like, don't be the black columnist. Be a columnist who's black. Don't be the Jewish columnist. Be a columnist who's Jewish. Don't be the female hockey writer. Be a hockey writer who's a woman. And it's just a way of approaching. Good writing is good writing, whether you're covering a basketball game or a car crash.
And you used to always tell me that by being a good reporter, reporting the facts and getting everything right, that's the beauty of what we're supposed to do. The entertainment factor will take care of itself, your writing, the embellishment, or the beautiful words that you may use sometime. But the most important thing is, as you say, to tell the story.
You know, one of the great compliments to me, I don't go looking for compliments, but when I write about somebody, especially if it's a difficult topic, like maybe their son died in Mattapan Square, or died at the hands of a drunk driver, or died in Afghanistan, whatever it might be, you talk to that person later, and basically they say, you know, thank you. It's not only what I said, but it's what I meant. Wow, that's good stuff.
That's powerful.
That is good, and it's storytelling, Joe. You mentioned that, you know, when people talk to me a little bit, oh, you know, what are you doing now and all this, and I said, well, I'm, you know, still telling stories, and now I'm training young people to tell stories, and they go, oh yeah, well, what's that all about? I said, well, you know, it's one of those skills that you can make a profession out of, but it's also a skill that you're going to have for the rest of your life. And salespeople on a regular basis tell stories every day of their lives for their living, because they're selling a product that they have to tell a story about.
That's right.
How do you deal with... go ahead, Joe. Go ahead.
I'm just going to... I have a passion for writing, and let me tell you, you are blessed in this life. If you get up every day and go to a job, a profession, career, whatever it is
that you love.
I mean, you have bad days, don't misunderstand. But if you're doing what you love, and when I was a kid growing up in the city, the only dream I ever had was working for a newspaper. I never thought of being a doctor, lawyer, anything. Just doing what I'm doing, and I've been blessed to do it.
Boy, and for so many years. And Joe, with all the personal things that occur in your life, because you wrote about the fact when your wife passed, and you've written some very personal things on her anniversary, and a woman that I got to know and love over the years just as much as a family member. When you reach those personal things, writing about Mrs. Fitz and stuff like that, that has to be 50 times more difficult than anything you write about anybody else. Am I correct in that?
Well, I'll tell you, Jimmy, the life-changing thing for me was the death of my wife. We were married almost 47 years, and she died just about 2 years ago now, and I'm still not over it. Mm-hmm. And when you write something like that, you don't want to be too maudlin. You don't want to be too... let the story write itself. Don't look for clever ways to say it. Just say it. And I wrote those basically, I wrote those stories because I wanted to, well, I guess I wanted to honor my wife, no question, but also as an encouragement to other people who are going through what I went through. And boy, I have heard from, you can't imagine how many people have contacted me.
When I read it, I said, I know he's getting a ton of letters over this one. I said, because, you know, you didn't just, it wasn't out your heart. You were just telling the world, look, when you love somebody this long, this is what love is. This is the ideal love of what I wanted in my life, and I got it. And I'll never be the same until we meet again, basically. And, you know, I said to myself, I don't even want to think about the mailbox and all of, and how crazy these people were probably writing. But nobody knew it better than you because you lived it.
Well, if I'm out speaking or if I'm writing, this is just personal stuff. My personal approach is, yeah, it's nice to entertain people. It's nice to inform people. But what I really hope is that you touch them. You touch them in a way that they relate to something you said or something somebody said through you. And, man, I tell you, I still get letters sometimes from people. They found some yellow copy of a piece I wrote back in 1972 or whatever, and it's hanging on the refrigerator now, or the bulletin board, because, you know, a lot of the stuff, it's just basic real life experience, and that doesn't change from year to year or generation to generation.
No, it does not.
So a lot of the stuff I wrote way back when I was starting out, it still applies today, I believe.
The human drama never changes. Do you ever change, Joe? Do you feel yourself changing with time?
Have I changed?
Do you feel yourself changing with time?
Yeah, he referred to it as a keyboard instead of a typewriter. That was the first thing that you'd have to change, right? Joe, by the way, do you know how to use email? Do you use email, Joe?
I do use email, but that's it. Let me tell you, I do not have a cell phone.
Thank you.
He does not have a cell phone.
So now, if he doesn't have a cell phone,
and
I don't do emails, we are on the same plane. Thank you, Joseph. Now maybe I can just keep him quiet for a second, so we can go on. How much longer do you want to do this, Joe? Say the rest of your life, please, because you agree or disagree or whatever.
Whatever you
look
want, Jimmy.
forward.
I got a few more minutes. Whatever you guys want. I'm happy to hear you both on the air, and frankly, I'm happy to hear the two of you together because I know you're both gifted at what you're doing. Wonderful.
And you know how far back we go, Joe, to 1977.
Wow.
1977. In fact, 37 years to the day. Last Saturday, which is what, 2 days ago? I can't even remember. Jimmy Myers got me an appearance at WBZ Radio with Morgan White.
Yes, 2 days ago.
We had a great old time kind of reminiscing and walking around that newsroom. Really and truly, I hadn't been in there in a long time. So it was a lot of fun. And I remember
over the years, Jimmy, I've done different things, but I think one of the things I enjoyed just way at the top of the list, for 2 years I hosted a talk show on WBC, Calling All Sports. And I found that was the most intimate type of interaction, like with the reader, or in this case, the listener. People aren't, it's just like this conversation right now. I absolutely mourn the loss of real good talk radio in the Boston area. It's just argumentative, it's self-promotional, it's nasty, it's mean, it's low rent. It really is. And I love listening to a talk show, especially at night. Man, I tell you, when Larry Glick was on, when Norm Nathan was on,
giants,
people like that.
We talk about giants, Joe.
Giants, but you know something? If you're going to have a good conversation, the most important thing is to be a good listener.
Yeah.
Oh, that is so true, and we talk about that in our interviewing workshop too with our kids. But Joe, you got to realize it's entertainment. The sports talk show hosts are not journalists. They're there to entertain and be provocative. Many people to listen to them as possible. I know Jimmy disagrees with this because I had to throw that out there.
Because I've done talk radio and I've done it successfully, and you don't have to be nasty, acerbic, rude to people. You don't have to be those things to make a good conversational, a good
to
conversation,
be entertaining.
and to be entertaining.
Okay.
You know, because Joe and I have talked about this a lot of times, and Joe would be one of the toughest people in the world if he felt I ever stepped over a line. That phone would be ringing saying, "Jimmy, what is the matter with you? Is something wrong? Is something bothering you in your personal life?" Because you don't act like that on the air. I don't have to be rude to someone to make your point.
You know,
I just
Jimmy,
don't.
two of the shows you did that I still remember so well. One, who was it?
Sports Exchange.
Gosh,
Sports Exchange?
What was his name?
Reggie Lewis.
No. Well,
Reggie
that
Lewis.
was one of the shows.
Yeah.
Yeah, the night that Reggie died, that was one of the shows.
Yeah.
And the other one, after John Salvi had committed those
My
those
goodness,
crimes.
and that was serious talk. Yeah, at
Who were you with
WRKO.
that day?
WRKO.
No. Who was on the air with
Maurice
you?
Lewis was with me.
Maurice Lewis. That's the Lewis. Yeah.
Another legend.
Yep.
Yeah, and when I mean, to me, those two shows, at that moment, people just want to plug in. They want to hear something. They
Yes.
want to somehow emotionally connect.
Yep.
And a newspaper can't do that.
No.
TV interviews can't do that. Talk radio can do it if it's done well.
It was a
And
powerful
those
and
two shows
impactful
were
day.
riveting.
Yeah, those were two of the toughest days of my life as a journalist and as a person, because that situation with the Salvi bombing of the abortion clinics on Beacon Street, I'll tell you, and I remember Maurice Lewis and I talking during the first commercial, and me saying, Maurice, you got to go up there, get on the scene. So we're going to report, and he called from his cell phone. We were right on top of it, but that's the way I was taught to do a story, to be there and to be accurate, to be on time, and to make sure that you got all the facts right.
Look, you're a professional journalist, Jimmy. It's all about the facts and telling the story. My point about sports talk radio, and Joe, this is the dumbing down of society. I'm sure you're familiar with that. People,
Yes, I am.
people, we're sitting here having a great conversation. You're both really good interviewers. You're great journalists, and I enjoy listening to that. But the ratings just wouldn't be there because people.
You don't know that. You can't say that.
I think so.
You can't say that.
Well, we're here on the internet, Jimmy,
can't say
and we're
that.
not on commercial radio.
Well, that's their loss. That's not my loss, because I saw a program today. I mean, about a couple days ago, Joe. I saw, Good Night and Good Luck. It's the piece that George Clooney co-wrote, and David Strathairn plays Edward R. Murrow in a biopic piece. Joe, it's
great.
on cable. You have to see it. It's one of the finest pieces of work that I've seen in a long, long time. And at the end, Strathairn, playing Morrow, receives an award, and it's as he's getting ready to bow out the business, and he talks about just what you said, Jimmy, the unfortunate dumbing down of this business, where Milton Berle is the #1 celebrity in America at that time, where he was a man that covered the Second World War, who did things with bombs dropping around him in London that Milton Berle would never have even thought of, and became an iconic personality. Plus, remember, he's the guy that took on Joseph McCarthy. He's the guy that brought Joseph McCarthy down. Morrow was the only guy. Remember when you could use a cigarette on the air?
Yep.
I mean, he has a cigarette on the air. But his words, the beauty of how he spoke. Joseph, if this means that I would stay here for the rest of my life, I'd rather do this and be able to speak to you and people like you in this vein than to worry about ratings or worry about who I can insult or what I'm going to do and so forth. I think we've lost so much, Joe. I really do. Your thoughts?
I think a compliment that anybody, say, in sports would get is that people who don't really care for sports don't want to miss your program or don't want to miss your column. I had a call some years ago from a teacher at the Wheatley School in Roxbury. And she said, Mr. Fitzgerald, I don't care about sports. I don't follow them. I don't even know who's playing for what team. But I know that kids, especially young boys, they do follow sports. And when I want to get kids to read in class, they don't want to read the books. They don't want to read the text we have. But if I put the sports section out, they'll read that.
Yep.
And so she began putting out the sports sections. And in
woman.
doing that, she kind of read my column 2 or 3 times and kind of got, she liked it. Bottom line is, she sent a very beautiful letter saying how much she appreciated not just the writing style, but the content and the points that were being made. And these kids were reading it because it was a sports. And so I wrote her back. I said, you know what? You never outgrow your need for praise from a teacher. And I went over to her school, spoke to that class, and for the next quite a few years, I went on a regular basis over there and spoke with students. That all came from her reading the column. And, I tell people, I write the kind of column I would want to read. That's it. Very simple.
That's what I want to do. I want to do the kind of talk I'd want to hear.
But Joe, all
I
that,
have been
Go ahead.
tooted, you might say, not maybe tooted, but I have followed some giants. Tim Horgan, to me, the best writer I ever saw.
From Tufts University.
Tim not only wrote beautifully, but he wrote strong. He had principles, and Timmy could not be bought or swayed, and he was admired. He had integrity. I said, I want to be Tim Horgan someday. He's a dear friend of mine, well into retirement now.
And a Tufts jumbo, Joe Fitzgerald. Come on. He was on my show because he was a Tufts alum, and that was a great thing. Good days through that. You're still talking about that story about the teacher. What the teacher understands is if you play to the young people's passion, if you find what they are passionate about, whether it's sports or if it's fashion or if it's arts and entertainment, music, and you can get them to talk about those subjects and read about those subjects. That is exactly what I've been doing over the last 5 years. Jimmy, you've seen it, watching the kids talk about their passions.
You guys there?
Yeah, we're here.
I'm here.
We're still here.
Can you hear us?
Can you hear us all right? Jamie,
get here.
Can you hear us or not?
Can you hear us or not?
Joe? Hello? I think we may have lost Joe. I think we met. No. It says here we're still there.
Hello?
Anything?
Hello?
Bueller? No, I didn't hit anything. Well, anyway, that was Joe Fitzgerald, columnist for the Boston Herald, a good friend of yours, Jimmy. There you go. See, no longer with us. You want to try and get him back?
See if you can, please, very quickly.
No.
Okay.
Let me dial for you.
Go for it.
Shall I dial for you, Jimmy?
Go for it.
All right. Because this is a cell phone. It's actually called a smartphone, and it actually remembers the number that you just called, and it will call it again. Now, hopefully, there's one ringy dingy. I feel like
Hello.
there.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. I guess that's cell phone.
Oh.
I'm on a cell
You're
phone.
on a cell phone?
I'm on a cell phone in the middle of a restaurant, the Knobscott Cafe in Framingham. Jimmy's got one earpiece in. I've got the other earpiece in. We're talking serious, low budget.
This is probably how it was when Alexander Graham Bell made that first call.
Uh-oh. Someone just walked in that Jimmy knows and is laughing.
It's Bruce Wegler. Oh, Lord.
That was Bruce Wegler?
That's Bruce Wegler.
That's a riot. Talk about a blast from the
Oh, my gosh. Okay.
We have two legends in this place tonight.
Don't worry, we're dragging them up here. Let's finish talking to Joe. Joe, basically...
This is not real TV. It's just webcasting, okay,
but
people?
It's great.
It's fun.
It's great. Joe, how much longer do you feel you want to write? Do you ever think that, maybe I'll reach the end one day, or I don't want to do this. I don't want to make deadline. I don't want to do this anymore. Because I don't feel I'm anywhere near that, Joe. And when I read your writing, I don't feel you're anywhere near that.
Jimmy, I really can't answer the question. I'm at a position where I could retire today if I chose to. It's a funny, during the period of my wife's long illness, and then into her passing, and since her passing, I have found that when I sit down with a cup of coffee in the morning to write a column, it's the most, it's the best part of my day, because I know what I'm doing, and I know how to do it, and much of life we don't control, especially illnesses and things like that.
Yep.
And in a way, the writing has almost been a refuge for me.
Very similar to how athletes escape into the world of sport when they have a tragedy. I remember Brett Favre having one of his best games ever on a Monday night after his dad passed away. I think that's, what we do is we throw ourselves into our trade.
That's right.
I want to go deeper than that, Joe, because, I asked you about change, and I asked you about how much you've changed. How much have you changed over the last couple of years in your mind?
Well, hopefully, in ways that may not even be relevant to me, but as we get older, more life experience, and you see things that you never would have even imagined, 20, 30 years earlier. And for me personally, and this is not true of a lot of people I know, but for me personally, I feel very blessed. There were two things that happened in my life that I look back and it's like Chris Christopherson. Why me, Lord? What have I ever done? And in my case, the only career I ever wanted, I stumbled into. And then I met the love of my life. And, you know, when you love what you do for a living and you love the person you go home to at night, what else is there?
Mm-hmm. I hear you.
Hey, I want to reset the. We're talking with Joe Fitzgerald of the Boston Herald. In the middle of all that, Bruce Schwegler, another WBZ weather legend, and Joe Joyce from NECN is here as well. And he's dining with the Kellys and the Bravermans, two of the kids that were with me yesterday at Gillette Stadium. And I'm just going to throw this little sports thing in because when I mentioned some of the names, Joe, that were at the event, the Game of the Greats that Peter Brock of the Alumni Association invited us down to, and these kids got to meet and greet and talk to Larry Eisenhower.
Oh,
okay?
wow.
I knew you'd like that one, right? Because he's still one of my all-time favorites. And Nick Buonaconi called him the best football player he ever played against, which is quite a compliment from him.
Played with and against.
And against. Mm-hmm. And Tommy Usyk was there.
Oh, wow, Tommy. I know Tommy.
Right. I mean, that's what I mean.
Steve Grogan, obviously.
Grogan and Brock and Steve Nelson.
These are guys from our era, Joe.
And Steve Nelson was there. By the way, Steve Nelson looks fantastic. He had both hips done.
Yep.
He's lost a lot of weight. He doesn't even look like Steve Nelson anymore. He looks like a normal human being as opposed to a linebacker. Anyway, that's what they did yesterday. It was a great event for the kids, and it was great for us, too, because we did it live on the internet. And anybody who's out there listening to this in the Knobscott Cafe, you can dial up our channel, The Jimmy's Sports Talk. We really spent a lot of nights thinking of the name of that channel, The Jimmy's Sports Talk, and you can watch it on your smartphone as we live stream here from the Knobscott Cafe. And when you think about all that, Joe, I'm absolutely amazed that we're able to do this really on a shoestring budget and provide entertainment and content that will live forever on YouTube.
Not only that, Jimmy, but I heard a great line many, many years ago. Somebody said to me, every time you write your column, you're writing your resume.
Writing your resume.
You don't know who is going to read that column. Yep. And even as we're talking right now, I mean, just having a good time. It's just, it's a labor of love for you guys, and I'm happy to do it because you're my friends. But you don't know who's listening right now.
No.
And what door that might open. I mean, every time you get down before a live mic, there's a lot of people out there listening who could say, hey, because of that show I heard, here's what I'd like to offer you.
Well, Joe, as I used to say, and I still say it to these kids, I don't care if one person's watching or a million people. You do the same show, right?
That's right.
Right, Jimmy?
I always say that my passion and my dream was to do what I'm doing now. Yeah. And like you said before, that's why I asked you how long, Joe. Joe, I could be 90 years old, and it's still, as long as my brain is working and my thought process is in order, I plan to keep doing it because I'm enjoying it. And first and foremost, and let me say this before you go, I want to thank you because I know it's tough for you to talk about Mrs. Fitz because it's tough for me to think about her and you and the life that we have, and more importantly, the long years of friendship. And I always call you my brother because you're more than a friend. But
I'd buy that, yes.
I'm honored that you would be the first person on this program that we do by phone. God bless you, Joe.
You're our first phone interview, Joe Fitzgerald. I'll never forget it. You're a great man.
And please come on one night.
And we'd love to have you out here and buy you dinner at the Knobscott Cafe. They have great burgers.
Well, I wish you guys well.
God bless,
so
Joe.
Much.
Stay safe.
Joe Fitzgerald, ladies
Talk
and
to you later.
Well done. I so appreciate that. Bye now.